And welcome to our extraordinary council meeting this morning. I will open our council meeting with our council prayer and te reo with English. E te atua, ka tuku mātou kia kaha mai ngā māngai ko whiriwhirihia mo te kaunihero o te iku o tika, ki te mahi me te ngā kauawaha me te whakamahi i ngā kūpinga me te mātauranga i roto i ngā wānanga me ngā whakataunga, kia hakatūria ai te tahi hapori e mata tika ana, e tūkotahi ana. Ka mutu, ka hakapiki anō i te oranga o te whaitau rohe, ka hakatau anō i ngā taki o te rohe i runga i te tika me te pono. Lord, we ask that through council discussions and decisions, the representatives we have elected may govern the Far North District with imagination, skill and wisdom to achieve a fairer and more united community that enhances the well-being of our district and solves the district's problems efficiently and effectively. Amen.
Amen.
Just a note as a part of mayoral announcements that we don't have an interpreter today. Our live stream is on our council YouTube page. A reminder to everyone that our microphones in chambers, until Charlie Boy sorts out our desktop phones, we'll pick up all sounds, so please keep side chat and paper shuffling to one another. I've forgotten the mayoral announcements on Wednesday to speak about our visit to the Taraire Hills water treatment plant to look at the extensive mahi being done there to build a new 1.5 million litre steel reservoir to complement the current 1.5 million litre reservoir that is there, and then the old ones will be decommissioned. But it was really awesome. Thank you to Tanya Fokta and the team for organising that. It was really cool to go and actually see the mahi that's being done up there to increase the capacity. We're also going to have the first in the country's upflow BAC filter. So rather than putting water in at the top of a drum and then filtering it down, we put the water in from the bottom and filter it up. I don't know what that means, but it looked really cool. And people talking about it were nerding out around that, so it was quite exciting for me. It was also cool to see the names carved into the old tanks that were put in the 40s, was it? 1944. So that was really awesome. We followed that up, and that project comes with significant central government funding contribution as well to enable housing here in Kaikohe. We followed that up this morning with a visit to the Te Haura o Ngā Puhi Bissett Road housing development. That will see 100 new homes built there, as well as a visit to the Te Ara ki te Atua development on Mangakahia Road. Really awesome stuff, and that whole project will be completed by June next year, so I'm really excited to get along to that. Just in terms of housekeeping, I think everyone in here knows, but if our fire alarm is activated, then we will head to the grassy area of Memorial Hall and wait until the headboard gets up here, the people forward tuning to the building. Before we move into meeting agenda items, I want to provide our chief executive to have some opening comments. I'll say this one. Case we do this with this one.
Okay, so something from Emergency Services helping there. Yeah, just like to remind everybody of our responsibilities as elected members and council staff. Obviously, we're here to serve the whole district in the public interest. The way we conduct ourselves matters. Professional leadership. Different views are always welcome in favour. We just want a healthy dialogue and respect for each other as we go through the process of debates. We should always focus on the issues and not the individuals. So yeah, just ask that we govern in good faith, guided by our shared values, and be mindful of the trust placed in us by our communities. Finally, we're confident legislation allows this meeting to be convened today. That's it.
What legislation would that be, Guy, that we're convening today?
Standing orders under the LGA. No, I understand. Chris, do you want to provide more detail on that?
Actually, we pulled the meeting under clause 22A, Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act, and that's reflected in our standing orders 8.6.
Getting to apologies and declarations of interest, I will move that we receive and grant a leave of absence to Councillor Rachel Balke and Councillor Anne Court, and also note apologies for Chair Jessie McVeigh for today's meeting. So if I could get thank you, Councillor Research. Any commentary? I will put that. All in favour say aye. Those opposed to opposition.
Saying
Abstentions. That's
8.6.
abstention.
I have that noted, please, that the process for calling an extraordinary meeting at an earlier time, standing order 8.6 has not been met. Thank you.
Just to that, can I have the actual, because this is being live streamed, I just want to reiterate the legislative reasoning for how this meeting has been convened. We could have it read. Ms. National.
So as the group manager, strategic relationships pointed out earlier, clause 22 of Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act provides an allowance for us to convene an emergency meeting, which is reflected in Standing Order Section 8.6.
Just for clarity, I object to that note being added as a line in the, speaking to what Councillor Smulders has asked to be recorded. I object to that being.
I believe she asked to record her abstention.
Abstention, absolutely fine.
We'll now go.
So us to record though that we're not honouring 8.6.
And I object to that because it's
Yeah,
not
I think
very.
you're objecting to that one, not
Yeah.
to my abstention. So I understand that.
I'm satisfied that staff have convened this meeting under the Local Government Act, and I will not have no added.
Thank you.
We're going to go now to.
Councillor Foy has a question.
Sorry, Councillor French.
Sorry, it's just in the notes. You can read that there. Just in the apologies, can you just note the reason why Councillor Balke and Anne are not at the meeting? Because they're at a roading meeting that was discussed at my committee earlier on last week. Just to note, they're at, I think it's Regional Land Transport Committee today in Whangarei. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foy. We'll have that noted. I believe we've got a portfolio meeting. It wasn't in the notes, but that rings a bell. Thank you, Councillor. We're going to go to item 5.1, which was item 6.10 in the Wednesday agenda. That can be found on page 8 of the agenda circulated yesterday, or page 194 of Wednesday's agenda. Options to strengthen governance, assurance and public confidence. Now, what I plan to do, because this isn't a vote for the entire thing, but it's a build your combo, and staff have got on here different options for us to consider. So what we'll do is go through the different Roman numerals separately, I think was how we decided it would be easiest for you to manage what you use. But we've got the report on the table, and I've got here that if there are any questions, then we can refer to Rebecca for anything legal. Otherwise, I don't have a question on this. Emma. Oh, sorry, that's Emma. Kia ora, Miss Emma is joining us. Answer any questions, so I will open for questions now. We will get into the recommendations that we have here. The first recommendation A is that we receive the report options to strengthen governance, assurance and public confidence. And I will move that. If I could have a seconder. Councillor Research. Just want to, as mover, just thank staff for the work to put this together. Following our letter we received and returned as well to Minister Watts, which is in here, as well as our cordial with Local Government New Zealand as our sector support organisation in this space, who said that in other circumstances councils have options like this that they had as considerations as well. So I thank you for putting this up, and I speak in favour of us receiving the report. Councillor Research.
Yeah, we can't do anything without receiving it first, so I support A.
Any other members? Councillor Smulders.
Receiving a report that doesn't outline all the options. And so I feel like it's not a full report. Thank you.
Any other members? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed.
Councillor Smulders recorded. Abstentions? And I'll just check in with Councillor Foy. Your hand was up to receive the report.
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. We'll now go to recommendation B, and we've got 6 different ones that we'll take separately. B1 is to commission an independent governance assurance review. For that.
A question on that. Yes, some of these, they're not mutually exclusive, but when I look at some of the costs associated with it, one, the public that we all find, and 2, keep the cost to the minimum. So I'm just wondering if we need to discuss generally first, which are the things that people like. But I don't have only one that I don't want to see there, which is exclude all the rest, i.e. do nothing. But I'm happy for a feedback from people on what we should be going for. But I'm all against 1 or 2, but I'd like to want some discussion. We can just go through one at a time.
Is there any preference to the way you'd like to consider these?
I think a discussion might be helpful for everybody.
We haven't moved or seconded, so we're in the question time of this. If anyone has any questions or would like to discuss any of the different options on the table, I'm happy to take hands.
I suppose I want to sort of kind of challenge that the fact that a sole councillor wrote to the Minister of Local Government to make a complaint without other councillors being involved in the discussions. Or my question was, did other members, other councillors sign this letter that is purported to represent the views of all elected members?
Irrelevant to the topic on the table.
Pardon?
Is that relevant to the topic?
Well, it kind of is, because this is a reaction to the response from the Minister of Local Government. So I'm wanting to just ascertain, was this the view, the letter that it was originally sent, is it the view of one councillor or a number of councillors? Because I haven't heard that discussion in our meetings.
I would imagine that the Minister of Local Government on board many different views and many different perspectives and came to his own decision. So you'd have to ask the Minister.
So that's a no.
Of Local Government that.
But that's a no, that no other councillor endorsed the original letter that was sent to the Minister of Local Government.
Well, it's unfortunate that we book a meeting time when 2 other councillors are unable to make it because we've now been told that they're at another meeting. So I think...
No, I'm talking about the original letter that was sent about the 9th of April, or whenever it was, to the local minister, the Minister of Local Government, purporting that this council is dysfunctional in governance and management, the CEO, the mayor and staff and councillors. So I'm just wanting to ascertain, are you the only one who has that opinion, and are you the only one who signed the letter?
I think it's an important thing to actually ascertain, but we have this item here we should be focusing on.
I think we can, thank you, Councillor Research. I think Councillor Harawira, that we can focus on the letter itself from Councillor Watts. We don't have tabled today the letter he received with the complaints that prompted him to send his response letter to us. So if we could just focus on the letters that we've got tabled in our agenda today, sure, it might be helpful. I'll take Councillor Floyd.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, we haven't moved this. This is just a question time, and are the questions just to staff or are they to each other?
Councillor Research suggested that it might be helpful for us to have discussion over which options councillors are favourable towards before we actually move the individual items themselves. So if there are questions of each other, or if you'd like to share where your thoughts are at around the different ones, it would be helpful for us to build up that picture, and then I'll call for someone to move whatever the result of it is.
Thank you. So in terms of my views, I am just concerned that the reality of the way that our committees work has not been made clear. I've had to explain that a number of times about, for someone like myself that's been on the council for 10 years now, and Councillor Court who's been there, over 20 years, committees have existed for decades. And what I'm seeing from the Minister is questions around our council, because information about how things really work, I think, should be made really clear cut. And I've looked on our website for our council, and it's not actually made clear on our website what the committees are, what the members are there for, and how that works under the Local Government Act. So I think in terms of our communications with our public, I think it'll be really helpful to make it clear as part of not only just the information about elected members around the table here, but around that governance structure and what committees are, why we have them, and what are the different appointments that we have, and how each of them, or most of them, have voting rights and why we do that. I think we need to be consistent about our approach for not just one committee, for all the committees, but also make it clear to the Minister and questions that he may have about the public and their concerns, because they don't understand this. So a response from staff I would like to ask them is, can our website be updated to reflect the information about the way we govern, not just through council, but through our committees as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foy, and I completely agree with you there around the importance of succinct communication. And that we do need to ensure that our public-facing comms and the heart for me of all information for us online is through our council website. I might get either Emma or I to respond there around Mahi, that I understand they've discussed and had discussions with Local Government New Zealand around our committee structure and how that functions, and how it's legal.
Through Kahiga, there are measures that we can take to enhance the detail of the processes and the transparency around that. All the information is available. I'm quite sure of that in terms of our website and various other sources of information available on local government. But we certainly have a work plan to improve that, and that would be covered under this option B3, implement governance, transparency and process enhancements. And so that would include communications via the website, etc. Emma, do you want to expand on that at all? It's a work plan that's in process, and yes, we have been having discussions with LGNZ as well.
Thank you, Guy. Our GM of Communications and Engagement is best to respond to this one. So, Ruben, I'll pass to him. Thank you.
Yoda, thank you. From our perspective, we are always interested in making sure that our website is updated with relevant information, especially when we are aware of themes and topics that are of interest to the community. Just this morning have been updated with our comms manager on a series of information pieces that we're reviewing to put that out. And I think that's just general practice as we see topics or items of interest that arise in the community. I think we have a responsibility to make sure that the public is informed, specifically to the request that's obviously being mentioned by Councillor Foy. We're always progressing in this space because folks are always interested in knowing more about how we operate, and we're happy to post that information. We're working through that as we speak. Go ahead.
I'll go to Councillor Stretford and then I'll come to you, Councillor Stretford.
LaFoy's already asked one of the questions I was going to ask, but further to what she has said about the existing resources. Given all the transformational change that this organisation has been through, we used to sit in this meeting without a live stream, and it took some time before minutes were available for people to see. Now everything's a lot more accessible online, and so I'm wondering, in option C and E that was proposed, some kind of dashboard, what would that look like? What would it consist of that's not a duplication of what's already available for the public to see?
What's the specific question? Sorry.
What would that, so in option C and E, there's some kind of dashboard proposed. What would be reported in there that wouldn't actually be already available in council agendas or minutes or our operational briefing report that has just been published on Thursday?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think that the monthly activity briefings that we just started last month creates a unique and great vehicle to be able to share this type of information, specifically to our communication and engagement channels. If you recall from that report last month, we clearly identify and show the level of interest from the community via those channels. We report on hours watched on all of our YouTube platforms. There's been a move, certainly from our perspective, to make all of these meetings available on demand on multiple platforms so that the community can be informed and see it firsthand. So we've been expanding that live coverage of these meetings to include committees as well. This has been just recent. And so I think when we refer to dashboard reporting or any additional reporting, I think that's one of the reasons why we've worked to implement the monthly activity briefing report. Yeah. And a lot of that metrics or a lot of that engagement activity that we're seeing will be reported through that medium.
Another question I've got is, if we did go with B as, having an observer, given the minister says everything's actually honky-dory here, what are we trying to achieve? What would we be doing that doesn't already address the processes, standing orders, being compliant under the Meetings Act, being compliant under the Local Government Act. I don't know who I'm asking this to, perhaps Emma, but help me see why we would pay for an observer.
I can answer that.
Okay, right.
Through you, Kate. This has been discussed at length. Essentially, concerns have been raised about our governance standards and our operations. So there's a number of ways we could tackle this. The conversation we had with LGNZ gave us some clarity around the process that would happen if the minister decided to appoint an observer. But then, as they rightly pointed out, there's nothing to stop us actually taking the initiative and doing the same thing. So getting advice on potential observers, choosing someone and asking them to come in and look at our processes and standards of our governance and write a report on it. So the idea there is really just to throw the doors open in terms of transparency and show the world that we are doing a good job. Or if it turns out there's things we can improve and we can learn from that process and from the observer's report, then obviously we would welcome that, take that on board as well. So it will come at a cost, and it will involve staff time, I'm assuming. My understanding is an observer would come in and we have to agree a process for appointment of that observer and the terms of reference they would act under. My preference would be to make that completely independent, so not council, not executive actually choosing the observer, but try and vest that in an independent third party, and then get them to also specify the terms of reference to be consistent with what you would expect from a Crown observer. And then my guess is that from there will be a preliminary process where we will be providing a lot of information, historical information, and whatever is required. And then there would be a period where the observer would come in and, I presume, attend council meetings, committee meetings. I assume they would also be interviewing staff and executive and elected members. So, but in a nutshell, the idea is throw the transparency doors open and show the world that this is what we do, and we're confident that we're doing a good job, but we wanted to address the issue that has been raised.
Okay, thank you for that.
The alternative is maintaining the status quo, which is on that list too, and that would be a different way of tackling it, that we believe we're doing a good job, and we're happy to take questions, but we're not going to spend ratepayers' money on a significant and complex process.
I've got Councillor Research, myself, Councillor Allen, and Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan. As I said before, I think given what's happened, that it is important that we do give a response to the public and give assurance that what we're doing is fair and equitable across the whole community and for every person. The question I have, though, is between A, B and D, if you look at those independent governance assurance review, or appoint an independent observer, or D, request external governance support.
Can I just clarify, John, you mean B1, B2, B4?
Yeah, but on page 195, you'll see they've changed those numbers.
But if we follow the recommendation,
yeah. I'm looking at this because it's not the reporting. And so of those, so if I go 1, 2, and 4, those my thought is, I'm not expecting an answer from staff, that we would choose one of those, not all 3, because it becomes quite expensive. I'm open to one of those to be discussed in anybody's preference there. And then we have So it's C and E, which I marked here, and that is correct. The implementation of the internal transparency process and the public governance assurance transparency dashboard. They seem to be achieving the same thing in making, giving detail to the public. And again, I don't know if we need to do both of those. One of those is the key thing there. Is that a fair assessment? So I don't know who's going to answer that.
Through Kate, I think E, so the idea of a dashboard, we would need to workshop that with councillors. I'm not sure it's going to add anything to a comprehensive communications plan, and so C will achieve everything. E would essentially just be a portal for someone.
Yeah, so therefore, either A, B, or D, I'm happy with whatever the majority is looking at, and C. More comment.
I am going to ask myself some questions now. Because I've been a little bit, although following, I catch up with DIA, with not DIA, LGNZ, and looking at the different options and receiving the letter from Minister Watts and DIA staff, have been trying to figure out what options we have, what we need to do, how we need to do it. And I have been not conflicted, but weighing up the different options that are available. But and probably up until this morning was in favour of, exploring what some of those independent options look like. But I'm going to just share. I'm going to share my thoughts. All right. Bringing an independent observer or looking at an independent report to prove that our doors are open. Our doors were never closed. We're a public institution, the Far North District Council, and responsible to so many pieces of legislation, least of all the Local Government Act and the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act. And that information is all shared and available online, and I accept and agree with Councillor Foy that we need to make sure that we do update our committee structure and put out there strong communication publicly to give confidence to the community in the Far North around how things work. But I also acknowledge that we're only in second year of this triennium. We've only just finished the full governance committee cycle. Each committee's only has now, as of last week, was it, only met once. So we haven't even been through iterative cycles to really get into our cadence and our flow as a governing body across the council, across our standing committees, across our joint committees. Not all of our portfolios have stood up and had meetings yet. And there's a really cool one that I get to chair, which is around communication and public confidence and all of that sort of thing that I definitely am wanting to get scheduled in there, Ruben. So, we're only PP money. We're only just hatched and growing our feathers. We haven't even had a chance to test out the wings yet as a governing body. Our very first paper at the table was receiving our annual report. We passed our audit. The only thing that was flagged for every other council that is considering a multi-council joint CCO was audits. And I saw last night a dashboard of all of the councils across the country. All of the audits are all available, and you get to see the traffic lights across the different councils. Ourselves, Kaipara and Whangarei, we're all orange traffic lit because of the CCO, and that's just, I think, an accounting thing. Northern Regional Council was green. Our biggest neighbour, the biggest council in this country, Auckland, was red. I don't see them considering a paper on bringing in independent observers or commissioning independent reporting to look into their governance and operations. Last term, this council was the 14th, I think, lowest out of 78 councils, and that could be wrong. Just that's not fact. I'm just trying to use my photographic memory to remember that. Well, the lowest cumulative rates rises in the country, and on one of those years we were there. It was suggested cheekily from some of my fellow mayors in the last term that in your third year, young man, you haven't learned yet, you're meant to have an artificial low rates rise because it's an election year. You want to be elected, you always make sure your year 3 is lower. Well, actually, we went lower in year 2 because that's when people were hurting the most, and unfortunately that meant we couldn't go as low for year 3, but it was the right thing to do. So I stood by it, and it was fortunate enough to get voted back in by the people of the final, despite that higher increase. So, you know, we're on tracking on that, we're doing well. Our new government brought in council benchmarking, and a second iteration of that is due this year, I believe, where they would benchmark councils across their annual capital spend, their operational spend, the number of staff they had, their geographic size, and we were grouped. The Whanau District Council was grouped with small metro councils and large provincial councils. And I think that we were in the top quartile of those councils on that benchmarking ranking that came out from there. So while I know that we could consider some of these options, and this is just me personally, and everyone gets to vote the way you want to vote, and I encourage you to consider the options that you think would be beneficial for us. But for me, I sit here and I look at what is on the table, and what is on the table is the letter from the minister saying that he has received requests for ministerial intervention, that he expects us and all councils to collaborate effectively and deliver for our communities, and that's something that I definitely want to do over this triennium. We're going to take a few more meeting cycles, not just one round of everyone to probably get there, but I want to be able to do that. That if there's a significant problem in our management, governance or delivery of our functions and duties, or if we're unwilling or unable to resolve it, that then he would potentially enact powers that he has under that. But his understanding is that the council is discharging its function under the Act, and he's satisfied. That's what we have on the table today. I myself am, while not satisfied, we're not perfect, and we likely never will be, but neither are all other 77 other councils in this country. In fact, this government's looking to axe 11 of them because they're dissatisfied with the way regional councils are functioning and what they're doing, and they were looking to, in the first iteration of simplifying local government, of sacking all of those councils mid-next year. Whanau District Council wasn't on their list. So while we can consider these, I just think about the time in the budget, and everyone, I think, around this table always wants to be financially conscious around what that means. I think that there's ways that we can ensure that the people of the Whanau have confidence in us by sharing what we already have that's publicly available, by giving them reassurance across our platforms and across our comms, and doing the main. I myself am probably now looking at, the other thing, this is the other thing I want to say, is what is the problem? Because do we understand the problems ourselves? Because then we can figure out ourselves what the solutions could be. And those solutions could potentially require external facilitation, or those solutions could potentially require independent governance and independent observers or independent commissioning of reports. But we actually haven't had the opportunity to sit around the table, to sit around or to workshop. Okay, let's chuck out there all of the say perceived, or for some, because everything's subjective, the realities of what we're seeing, and then we can come through with what potential solutions could be found from that. So for me, I'm steering more towards recommendation B, Roman numeral 3, implement governance, transparency and process enhancements following a workshop with elected members to understand what governance or operational issues there are and how we can look after ourselves. The Minister himself, in his letter to us, says, and is either unwilling or unable to resolve it in paragraph 3. I'm willing to resolve any issues, but I need to have a clear understanding of what those issues are. And then when I know what those issues are, implement a change management program or look at all of us here are amazing. All of our staff here are amazing. And I think that we have it within ourselves. So otherwise we're going to have to try and define that and bring someone else in. So I'm going to steer towards 3 with an amendment that follows a workshop with elected members and SLT to define what we need to fix. I'll go to Councillor.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Kahika. Like you, I don't know what the problem is we are trying to fix. And what I'm hearing out in the community is very race-based, and that is not a problem, but has been framed as a problem. And like Kahika, and as been pointed out by Minister Simon Watts, I too am willing to collaborate effectively and deliver for our communities. And option C, I also had highlighted to support Councillor Boy's point about plain language, how council makes decisions, because that has been the real guts of the distrust that is currently out there, is that Māori around a table can influence decision making when actually that is not a fact. And, you know, I was a kaiako in a previous life, and we're all educated people in this whare, but the settler government was set up without Māori inclusion. So every system that we must abide by was not set up to ensure that Māori can do some sort of takeover. So it's not only factually incorrect, but it's not been in our history ever to enable that. And that's the sort of kōrero out there that's actually causing harm. So I too tautoko the strong comms around how council makes decisions, who actually holds governance in this whare. And we all know that it is us as elected members around this table. One very small tweak to enhance public trust and our transparency is fixing the sound. So many problems, messages come through around the sound problem. And there's even a narrative out there that the sound is disrupted and doesn't work at times because we don't want them to hear what we're saying. So just fixing the sound will negate, cancel out that type of narrative out there, which I know again is untrue, but it's out there. Like Councillor Foy, I too am at pains to explain how committees work, and agree with her on the strong comms. And I thank Minister Watts for affirming that we are discharging our functions as council, and that we as elected members actually need to have a workshop, a full and frank conversation around what is the problem. What is the problem and how are we going to work together to fix this problem that's been created? So as Keika mentioned, option C in the longer things that Councillor Busich was referring to, option C is probably where I'm heading as well. To workshop, but also I'd like to include in there somewhere, probably in a note or something, that the sound could be a quick win for our community. So because we're getting a lot more online, given all the things out there, and so getting that sound right so they can hear what we're saying would be a quick win for us. Tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe. Te mea Ratkin.
Yeah, I'm bouncing around with ideas, but I do total for the kōrero from previous elected members around the information about committees and having that nailed on our website and having that clearly articulated. But we also need to remember, and it's been mentioned in this chambers before, around elected members and our need to be sharing that information consistently and honestly and not misleading our communities into confusion. I wouldn't mind if we had an observer or whatever in our chambers, but I just, at the cost is, you know, we're always talking about ratepayer costs and trying to reduce costs for ratepayers. I just think that this has come about because of one member's letter to central government. Central government has come back and said, actually, you're doing a great job, carry on. But if we, and that annoys me that, you know, it's taken one letter to central government to activate all this raru that has happened in chambers. So if it meant that we were sitting around the table and elected members and staff, I'm not sure, could speak openly about where they're at, and we came to some consensus about our differences, that would be fine. I just see all of this as time wasting. You know, this morning we evidenced some great work that's going on in our community. That's what I'd rather be out seeing and doing and supporting, not sitting here going over the same stuff. And I don't think that I'd like to think that having an observer or a kōrero around the, you know, a facilitated kōrero with elected members was going to help. But, you know, we are elected members. We do all have our beliefs. It's very hard. You know, we're all in our older years. Well, I am. And you're not going to be able to change the way I feel or think after a few conversations. I'm still going to be thinking and voting the way that I do. And I don't think that we can change one or two people's perceptions through meetings. I support option V1, maintaining the status quo. We have a CEO, we have a mayor that is here daily. We've got seats there if we've got whānau that want to come and listen to what's going on. The doors aren't locked unless it's PX. Yes, the sound system's hoha, but look, we've got no one here today. And if people were genuine about wanting to hear and not sit at home and you know, write inappropriate comments on our chats or on our websites, then they'd be sitting in this room listening to us, hearing every word that came out of our mouths. So like Kahika, our doors are open. We're here every day, ia rā. So elected members can come and approach Guy or Kahika or myself or any other staff that are here if they have concerns. So I support option. Our whānau district governance processes are lawful, they are robust, they're operating as they are intended to. We have confirmation of that from the minister. And yeah, I also just want to acknowledge how important it has been for me to be a Māori ward councillor and to sit amongst some amazing 3 other Māori ward councillors who are teaching me a lot. I didn't come from the same experience as my other 3 Māori ward councillors, and I'm really proud of the courage that they show and the importance that they've reminded me about of having Māori voices present at the table. From my perspective as a Māori ward councillor, participation in these processes have been meaningful, respected, properly supported, and we saw a couple of weeks ago, you know, our other rangatira that were here talking about their expertise They've got so much to offer us, and we really need them at the table with us because of their perspectives and because of their expertise and the way that they will help us shape sound decisions. So maintaining current arrangements for me at this time is where I will support. Tēnā koutou.
Are there any other members? Councillor Small.
We don't go first. The request of the letter that I understand on the 9th of April was written by Cameron Watson MP and signed by Cameron Watson MP on the 9th of April. Number 2, we have received another letter. Moko, would you like to tell everybody about that letter? That was received 2 days ago, and my understanding is that this Chambers is not taking into account that letter, and so therefore we are making decisions that are based on not having that information. Mia, could you please tell people what's actually happened?
The framing of that is that I've purposely not told anyone, but
Because you've purposely not told anybody because...
No. The framing of it is misrepresenting that DIA have asked to come up and have a catch up with myself and Guy, our partnerships director, and we will be. They are waiting to see if that meeting will be what we decide today. Will inform what happens in for this council, and I think that when they come up, and I can say, guess what, we're doing all right still, and we're going to have a workshop which you're welcome to attend and come along to get a better understanding of anything that we might need to tidy up, just like any other council in this country. So I haven't received any formal letters from DIA, but Guy and myself have received an email from our partnerships director requesting that we meet with them.
I think that's pertinent information that I've been sent the email to inform that DIA have made contact with the Mayor and the CEO 2 days ago, and that they are arranging engagement with the Far North District Council. And I wonder why I know and no other councillors know that.
No, I've spoken to councillors about it.
Yeah, I know about it.
Well, I've spoken to other councillors and they have not known about it, which is similar to we're saying they're at the roading meeting. And I question that too. The next point I'd like to make that you've mentioned is that you're unsure about the concerns, yet 23,500 people have signed a petition saying they're concerned. I think this is significant. It's not an isolated disagreement. The evidence demonstrates there's a pattern of governance process failures, supported by specific meetings, resolutions, documented interactions. These include such things as committee resolutions not being accurately carried through to council. That was that option 1, option 3 scenario. Formal notices of motions have not been progressing despite correct submission processes. Again, all documented, all on email, all on video. Elected member information access failures, all documented. Privacy and safety governance failures.
Gene tried to log in, or what was that?
No, it took 4 months for me to get a ticket number where they acknowledged that I couldn't get in, and it took 4 months for IT to give me access to my home RFS ticket numbers, which is all documented on email from Democracy Services. Please don't discuss my personal life openly in council, Moko. That's inappropriate. Internal mechanisms failing to resolve that systems are not transparent and democratic. I could go on. I've got 23 different issues here. So I think the point that we're saying that we're not sure why the public, or the ratepayers and the residents have uncertainty around our processes. I think that's been fairly established. I do welcome that you want different views and that you say they're always welcome. Thank you, guys. I also note that Councillor Rudkin said this is the same stuff. This is actually the first time this has come to Chambers. So it's not like we're going round and round on the same stuff. This is actually the first time. So I have looked at the recommendations, B1 through B6, or as Councillor Vucic said, A to F, and they're all very soft options. They actually don't give responses to serious concerns. There's a gap. We need a probity audit to restore through verification. So we need to know whether the system has been followed, because the concerns raised are not theoretical. They relate to actual events, actual decisions, and actual processes. A probity audit is the appropriate tool in this situation because it examines real decisions, not just the frameworks. It tests the integrity, the fairness, and the compliance with the law and policy, and it looks at who knew what and when. It examines conflicts, influence, and any deviation from proper process. Importantly, it's independent of the council control and produces evidence-based findings that can withstand scrutiny. And that's what we need, is we need to reassure the ratepayers and the residents that we are operating at a high level of assurance. The current options that we have in front of us focus on reassurance, but a probity audit provides accountability. And if our processes are sound, it will show that. So I'll be moving an amendment for option G, and the GGs were given that amendment 3 days ago. So that's open to have been pre-read. Because this is not about our governance structure, it's about trust, and we need to rebuild trust. And the only way to rebuild trust independence is to get evidence, and therefore we need a probity audit, an independent one, an external provider.
I'll be affording Councillor Smulders the ability to move her amendment. I also have a motion that I would like to move, but I'll let her go first. But I'll go to Councillor Foy for a question in the first instance.
I didn't have a question. I was ready for debate, but I wanted to second your motion, Mayor Moko.
Well, thank you for that. I'll go to Councillor Smulders and I'll ask the judges to share the amendment. So the amendment is that Council amends the recommended approach to strengthening governance, assurance and public confidence by A, including the commissioning of an independent probity audit as a priority action, and B, requesting that the probity audit be undertaken by a fully independent external provider with no involvement from Council staff or elected members in determining scope, methodology, or content. And C, directing that the scope of the probity audit includes but is not limited to the integrity of Council decision-making processes, alignment between committee resolutions and council decisions, adherence to statutory obligations and standing orders, management of conflicts of interest and information flows, access to information for elected members to fulfil their governance role, D, requiring that the findings of the probity audit be reported publicly subject only to lawful confidentiality provisions, and E, noting that while council has indicated in its letter to the minister dated 13th of April that it would consider options including an independent report or observer, options B1 and 2, an independent probity audit represents the appropriate and necessary level of assurance to address the seriousness of the concerns raised. I'll ask for a seconder.
Can I just ask what yours is?
I'll be moving that Council B resolve to 3, implement governance, transparency and process enhancements subject to a workshop to understand opportunities for improvements of management, governance, delivery of functions of all duties needing resolution. I've also moved that C, we authorise the CEO and D, note that the implementation. Upon that, I've got some where I'll be able to speak more to it.
I know it wasn't seconded, but I do want to know how much this could cost. Is it a mix of two of the options, like in the?
I do have questions related to that one.
That's my first.
So you want to go to the amendment? Councillor Smalls, thanks for your amendment. Appreciate what you're trying to achieve there. What I outlined with the comments about independent observer coming in and producing a report is one of the same thing. I think we're actually talking in terms of nomenclature here, in terms of what we call the report. So probity, our annual audit is essentially a probity audit report. The independent observer will be doing the same thing. So what you specified there in terms of the chain of events, the information, the reporting by staff, how that makes its way up through committees, up to council, the whole chain of events would be captured, is my understanding in that report. I'd also suggest that we would make sure that that observer would be truly independent, so that would be consistent with your amendment. So I think we've covered that option in this paper.
No, not at all, because the independent probity audit can determine the scope, not the council. So therein lies the difference. And we need a gold standard, we need public reassurance. 23,000 people have signed a petition. The nation is watching us. We owe them.
I'll wait for, I'm taking questions.
Sorry, just
We're not in the debate. I've been passed this that there is no seconder, so we usually wouldn't discuss, but I appreciate that comfort and responses might result in a seconder, so I'm allowing questions.
I have a question,
Research.
Mr. Chair. We heard from Councillor Smoller that we shouldn't have the scope up there because it should be independent. So I do wonder with C, direct implementation of the internal transparency, can we involve one of our external people on art? And one of them is a serious auditor. And if they can be involved in that process and look at addressing some of the issues that Councillor Smollers has, and then look at that, and would that not, so I'm asking the staff here, would that not cover everything that's requested?
So through you, just to finish my answer to Councillor Stratford, I don't know what the cost would be. We would have to get that assessed and presented.
I think it would be, it could be limited because we wouldn't be specifying a scope.
So what I said previously in terms of the independent observer process is that we would, the terms of reference, which is scope, would be determined independently of us. So once again, it would be independent. But sorry, you want?
I couldn't see why what you were suggesting, just the mere foreshadow, especially if we involve one of our independent members. Did we consider some of those things or part of it?
Can I ask, Guy?
Yep.
We're almost due for our next annual report. So are we not under an audit with our auditors right now in any case? And we expect that, and we're now in, is it the 1st of May today? June, July, that goes to the end of June. And then we'll be looking to receive that. So will we not expect to have something of this? Not
So that's correct.
I acknowledge, but can you just talk to through our annual auditing and that process and when we can expect our next annual report to come in? At our last Te Miro committee, I didn't have any power to that caused me anything.
So my understanding, and just to your, I'm not suggesting anything. You asked what I might be suggesting. I think we've outlined a good range of options here in this paper. In terms of the annual audit, so this discussion will be aired to Miro, I think it's on the 11th of May, that next meeting is due. And that will be captured by the auditors. Everything we do is captured by the auditors, and they are free to to look at anything they want to. So I think for sure the minister's letter, our response, the discussion here today will be considered by our auditors.
But just
Will be raised, I'm sure.
through you, Chair, just reiterating, I can't see why three government transparency process can't pick up all those issues as well as part of that process.
Include our external committee members.
If we need to, yeah.
Conflict of interest. Can't have a committee member,
And as external member,
external member who has voting rights on a committee be the investigator of that exact committee. I don't think the public.
No,
will get
sorry,
assurance on that.
Chair, I just don't think anything's going to suit Councillor Smulders. No matter what we do, we could turn the place upside down. She'd want to turn back the next day. Sorry, that's my opinion.
So
You should do about what?
I'm taking questions. I have Councillor Boyd and Councillor Allen for questions on the proposed amendment, which hasn't been seconded. But if you are seeking questions of clarity to enable you comfort to second this, then please ask those. We'll go Councillor Boyd.
I had a question about timing, and I see that this is the first time that I've seen this proposed amendment. From what I read in the amendment and what I can see that Mayor Moko has foreshadowed to move, and myself to second, I wouldn't preclude that we can't address these issues without first getting together in a workshop and having an open discussion. I know that this is a formal live stream council meeting, so standing orders applies. But my concern is that as elected council, we should have a discussion about what these issues are and about how our concerns can be addressed without straight away jumping to some expensive, time-consuming audit about probity. And I had no idea how much that would cost, considering we're trying to save ratepayers' money. So I guess that's a question about the timing. I'm not sure if that's to Emma or to our CEO, and also probably to Moko as the foreshadowed mover.
Our workshop could lead to us wanting a independent probity audit, or that could be an option following that, I think was what you were asking. I'm going to go to Emma.
Thank you, Mayor Moko. My understanding of what the discussion is turning to, in my mind, what you are discussing is holding a workshop, and following that workshop, essentially all of the options, including the proposed amendment from Councillor Smulders, and there may be other options, will be back on the table. So I think for my own clarity, can I just confirm that, Mayor Moko, your intention is to hold a workshop to clarify the issues and potential ways forward, and then decide on the appropriate way forward once you've had that discussion and got clarity on the issues and all of the options, including what's on the table today and potentially others?
Sure, Emma. Now, everyone listen to what Emma said, because that's going to be my moving statement. Sure, thank you, Emma. That's great. I've got questions specifically, but this isn't on the table yet, so I don't. We're not debating the merits of this. These are questions of clarification, either of Councillor Smulders, herself, or staff, on what this amendment is proposing, and then I'll be calling for a second. I'll go to Councillor Allen.
Kia ora, I just want to clarify the petition of 23,000 that was signed that has caused this to cut, one of the
23,500.
500, that one of the concerns that has caused the product of this. Are you referring to the Hobson's pledge, stop the Far North District Council takeover? Okay. That's all.
Will you have a question, or and Councillor Akin? question?
Oh, I was just going to ask Councillor Smollers if she had that petition. I'd be very interested in seeing the petition. I haven't seen it yet. It's quite astounding the interest that people have in our council and the concerns that they have raised. My only issue with this is there's nothing around the FNDC team to come on, which would have been awesome to get a full scope of 360 of what needs to happen here in our chambers. Other than that, I don't see anything wrong. And my question is, can we move on? Because nobody's seconded it. So I won't take it again.
It's in our clear, Councillor Akin. I'll call for a seconder. The amendment fails for lack of a seconder. Can I please have Ms. to share?
So through you, Mayor Moko, it was B3 and 6C. Oh,
B and C.
Are we still in questions and answers, or are we moving into debate? Because I've just got one quick response.
This has been, if you just put those up and yeah,
I know.
those out. And I'm happy for keeping with consistency with how things go. Are there any questions on the amendment there? And then we'll go into debate. So, Councillor Smollers' question.
There's 23,646 signatures as at 11:10 this morning on the 1st of May. Thank you.
Any questions on this?
Just stop moving else out of the room or part of the decisions. Yep, cool.
I've taken the wording from the minister's letter itself.
Excellent.
Which letter is that?
Love it.
The recent one?
200.
It's been seconded.
It's been seconded by Councillor Floyd. I'll move it to debate now. I'm in favour of this approach because it doesn't exclude any of the other options, but it allows us to actually come together because we never actually have come together. We usually in a governance cycle will have it's a continuous improvement program, right? We have, and it's still hard to hear that. It took 4 months for an RFS ticket to be resolved. It's
All of them.
All
of them, not one. All of them. For 4 months, no access.
You couldn't access that.
Yes.
Fresh desk.
Even though I've got repeated emails asking for access to information.
You're debating.
Make my moving statement. Thank you. So, that's the sort of stuff I want to hear about. I have little things I'm all high about, I'm still waiting for our lights to be made brighter in this chamber because I actually struggle with the lighting in here. I want to have our sound sorted. I think that a million little things can seem to be a big thing, but then if we slowly tick them off, then we can get things sorted. And there might be big things that people want to bring to this table as well. But until we sit down as a governing body to have that discussion and to hear from our staff themselves, then how are we going to understand what's the problem that needs fixing if we just have an open book? There's also a program called Te Korowai. This could be a part of the outcome of this. And Te Korowai used to be called Council Mark. And I used to call it we did it in my first term in council. We had it, it's like the ERO, the Education Review Office, the ERO of schools for councils. And I think we became a B+ council back then. That's called Te Korowai now. It's an independent assessment program that benchmarks New Zealand's local council performance. That could be an option that we look into exploring. I know there are a number of other councils that have gone through the first iteration of this new program, and I'll be looking forward to catching up with some of those mayors to see how it's going. It was always something that I had as a consideration for what we could explore doing anyway, but from what I'm hearing around the table, this could be something that we actually action to participate in sooner rather than waiting for a long-term plan. We're also going to continue to work with BIA and with LUNZ. And in fact, it might be helpful for us to invite them in the room with the insights that they can bring from a sector level around trying to identify problems and solutions so that we can solve them ourselves for free. What I'd prefer than having to pay unbudgeted operational funding to try and fix things. I do have, I think I'll leave it there. I do get a right of reply, so I appreciate Councillor for you seconding this, and I think that it will help us continue to be the fantastic council that we are. Councillor Foy.
Thank you. As detailed before regarding my question, I think that this workshop and actually getting together as elected members will help us understand a lot of the concerns. I think as an elected council, I think having more elected member time just with us as a governance group would be really helpful as well. I do share concerns about the need for better communication. You know, this isn't a new issue that's only just been raised. It's been raised by a number of councillors that we need to do better to communicate with our public so that they can understand these complex issues. And with that better understanding, then that'll alleviate a lot of the concerns. I think as well what I've heard, and it was part of the debate yesterday, that only one of our committees was the subject of debate. And I think that understanding what the benefits are of having a Māori committee really needs to be outlaid. And I don't think people should fear having Māori on a council, number one. You know, that is an advantage for our council, having Māori at this table. And I think that the issue that we actually need to talk about is that it's not okay to have politics based on ethnicity or race, and that we should be debating the topic, not a person or their ethnicity.
Yes.
I have had questions around the value of the Te Kuaka Committee. I can tell you now, Kaitai Airport, we got $5 million as a result of that. Avoiding environment court hearings and processes. That's millions of time, millions of dollars and years of time that we save. In terms of saving ratepayers' money, I think that's part of the concerns. Sorry, Mimoko?
Sorry, Councillor Foy, a point of order has been raised over relevance. I'm just going to consider it.
Speak to the amendment.
The topic being discussed is not the matter currently before the meeting.
Can I continue?
I also believe understanding orders that I have the discretion to allow Councillor Foy to continue. I get the point that you are making, Councillor Foy, but if you can speak to the amendment, the motion that we've got on the table would be helpful, but I do appreciate the point that you're making.
The motion on the table is about governance transparency. And I think that that's the whole point of my debate today, about us being transparent, that as a team, as a council, we are not part of central government politics. We are each our own individuals, and we don't need to toe a party line. And governance transparency is just about that, about we having this conversation as elected members, being transparent to our public about what these processes actually are. And in terms of process enhancements at this workshop, we can discuss those as elected members and look at those issues that really are there about the information flow from staff to elected members and what is a reasonable time frame to get that information. And what is that comfortable tension between operations and governance that should be accepted, and internal levels of service and what elected members should expect in terms of improvements of management and governance. So in closing, I think that it's great that we have this motion tabled, because governance transparency and process enhancements is something that we should always be looking at improving. But in particular at that workshop, I'll be looking at how we can better improve our communications and how we can be more transparent to the public about that, so that the public don't jump to conclusions that aren't based on facts. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, I'd speak in favour.
Councillor Gressipsey and Councillor Smulders.
I speak in favour. I think having that workshop gives the opportunity for everybody to raise any particular concerns they have, start to hear those, and also opportunity to include in the workshop independent people from LG, NZ, or even PIA, anybody else. And they can have those there as well. I'm sure we can get the answers we need, and we should publish them. Well, thank you.
Should I go to Councillor Smulders and Councillor Halkiad-Harawira?
Thank you, Mayor. I cannot support this amendment proposing a workshop as the response to the issues before us today. A workshop is not accountability. A workshop is not independent. And a workshop does not test whether the proper process has been followed. What we are dealing with here is not capability gaps or misunderstandings. These are concerns about process integrity, decision-making, and public confidence. Holding a workshop where we talk to ourselves does not address that. Workshops are not binding, they're informal, and the core issue in front of us is that we should be serious about restoring public confidence. And we need to choose a mechanism that actually tests what has happened. We cannot workshop our way out of concerns about governance integrity. If anything, choosing a workshop risks reinforcing the perception that we are avoiding proper scrutiny. And I repeat that, a workshop risks reinforcing the perception that we are avoiding proper scrutiny. And that is exactly what we're here to do today. And that's what I'm hearing you say. The doors are open. There is no fear. I have no fear. So at the moment, we either demonstrate transparency and accountability, or we fall back into an internal process that doesn't even address the problem. So I am firmly of the view that only an independent probity audit meets the standard required. For that reason, I cannot support this amendment. Thank you.
I've got Councillor Halkiad-Harawira.
Kia ora tātou. I'm open to anything that is going to improve anything in council in our lives. I'm open to anything. We can do better. How high? I would just accept. I would expect that's what we would do as an organisation. And I just want to talk about, I think we, for me personally, I just want to talk about this. I see 3 tiers of oversight inside council. You've got top finance management, who are abreast of all the issues in our communities and the different needs in a highly deprived area. But, we've had our top financial staff being pulled out to manage 2 new government initiatives, ideas, namely the Taituketo Water CCO, a combined territorial assembly. So we've had them actively involved in that and keeping us abreast of all that stuff. I don't understand all of it, and I know there's better comms that we need to go out and share with our whānau. And I did take, I took great heart in the last triennium when the Middle Committee was formed, because we transitioned. We never had a CEO for over a year, and then when we employed Guy, and then inclusion of Te Middle in the Finance and Risk Assurance Committee gave me lots of reassurance that our finances were looked over and that we were meeting whatever financial standards that had to be met. And then we also, for me personally, we have a CEO amongst us who has had extensive banking experience in the UK. So I don't feel that we're sort of lacking. And I think the other thing that I still don't understand what Councillor Smulders is saying we're doing wrong. She talks about transparency, but it's kind of a nebulous. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, what we could do better. There's just this nebulative narrative. So our second tier of governance is our elected members and community board members who, one, represent the interest of community members, hapu and iwi, who approve projects and programs that are beneficial to everybody in the far north. Amongst our councillors, our elected members, the 11 members, as well as our community board members, there's a wealth of governance expertise amongst all of us. So, and then the thirdly tier of oversight is public scrutiny and feedback. So your community and my community have different responses. And it's not because these are Māori men. They are responding positively to small changes that they can see being implemented and being respected, being responded to, even if they have to wait a long time for it to be resolved. And I really appreciated hearing that the government is doing a council benchmarks thing. So I'm not into doing stuff that's duplicating. So I'm sorry, Councillor Smulders, I don't even know what you're on about. I don't know what the narrative out there that the Far North District Council is doing wrong things. And I'm trying to put the question, what would it look like if it was done better? You haven't even done that picture. So yes, we should one on it. We should talk amongst ourselves, because when you wrote a letter to the minister, there was your sole action. That was not the collective view of other members, at least 4, 5 or 6 members, to show that you had that unanimous support. And as for a petition from Hobson's Pledge, do they live in the area? Do they even live in the area, or do they live in Christchurch Stumpy? So I'm open to any improvements, so I support this motion, and I hope we can get on to the other business, because a lot of business isn't being decided because we're spending a lot of time. I agree with Fire Chicky. I don't believe anything we say will make you happy, because you've got another agenda. I don't know what it is. I don't understand it. I like to work with people to come to consensus. I don't think we'll ever find it, because you don't want it.
I'll give my right of reply and then take the vote. Just in reply to some of the things raised, and because I know we are live streaming, around what a workshop is, because a workshop before I got into council was where my papa and my dad fixed engines, but a workshop in council is actually something different, but maybe just less physical. In councils, workshops are used as informal working sessions to help elected members and senior staff develop understanding, explore options and shape thinking before decisions are made. They are not decision-making meetings and do not replace formal council or committee meetings. The main purposes of council workshops are to build understanding, to explore options and ideas, to look at strategy and long-term thinking, for early engagement on major projects, to improve decision quality. So I take, what do I take? I dislike the suggestion that it is inappropriate for us to have a workshop to get a better understanding, along with our staff and potential externals, what issues there are that we need to solve. I think it's incredibly appropriate for us to have a workshop to have a look at what that looks like and then to solve them. And solving them might require external, professional, expert support to help us solve what those look like. Or it could be as simple as making sure that members have got access to their RFS numbers. Or it might be as simple as getting signing off the order for the new tabletop microphone so that everyone watching at home can hear us. Or it might be as simple as buying new LED light bulbs so that I don't have to feel like it's so dark in this chamber. I also, just as a right of reply, do take effect to the notion that we need a Crown Observer because a committee recommendation changed, and that's a serious governance breach. That at Te Kukupa Committee, we decided something. It was a significant change in the policy of this council, and when it came through to council, it didn't reflect what was voted at committee. We sorted that out in the meeting. I sorted that out in the meeting. So the suggestion that that is a call, a serious breach of our governance is, I do take effect to that. It would be like having an itchy bite and requiring a plaster cast on your arm. Actually, we just had a bit of better-being and we sorted it out at the time. So I look forward to this workshop, should this get over the line, so that we can better understand that. I think that the Minister, DIA officials will think that this is a sensible step for us to take as a governing body to come together to look at what that looks like. I will just say in closing that if you lose a vote at this table, you lost it. That's what democracy is. So don't split the dummy and then go crying and running or calling wolf. Let's come together in a workshop. Sensible, make sure it's a good Maramataka moon phase.
Order.
Point of order.
The dummy, go crying. What is that in reference to, Mayor Walker?
I'm saying it in general.
Oh, in general.
In closing, ka kaha tātou, I hope you support this motion that's on the table so we can come together and start doing some real work. Sure. I'll now take the vote. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstentions? Carried. Thank you very much. I'm going to have a 5-minute break now.
You're not there.
Welcome back. We are going to consider our next item now, and that is our Northern draft statement of intent. Item 5.2 on page 20 of the agenda circulated yesterday, or page 6 of the supplementary agenda from Wednesday. I'll ask for a mover.
Yeah, I'll move.
Councillor Lucid.
Yes, sir.
Happy to second. The recommendation is that we receive the draft Northern Link statement of intent for the years 26, 27 to 28, 29. Note the outcomes of our workshop held on the 14th of April and the resolution of the 21st of April of our Te Koe committee. Approve the final district council shareholder feedback outlined in this report that was submitted to our JREG committee on the 24th of April via the draft letter found in attachment 2, and hope that the final statement of intent will be adopted by Northern Link by the 30th of June following consideration of collective shareholder feedback at the Joint Regional Economic Development Committee. I'll pass it over to Roger to speak to or take questions if he's happy with the written report.
I'll take the paper as read unless there's a request to go through the process.
Any questions? Councillor Smalls.
The Joint Regional Educational Development met on the 24th of April. Have the notes of that meeting been discussed?
Yep, through the chair of the Joint Regional Economic Development Committee. Did meet on 24th of April. The minutes are yet to come out. Northern Regional Council's Secretariat, they're working at the moment. The draft minutes will come out and they'll be approved at the next Joint Regional Economic Development Committee.
Thank you.
We'll go on to the debate of Councillor Research as mover.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mofuia. Look, thank you, by the way, speaking to Roger for the work that you've done there with very short notice. That's why there's a bit of retrospective. We did workshop shopping. All the members knew about it. And it's to just bring out the points which you've raised, which in particular to be more specific. So the difference between the different votes you did, and I really do appreciate that, and that was actually seen very well. But I do like the way the reports, and they've broken it down into sections, and by way of example, page 21 and was 2 with old the sort of lot was and you'll see example of what Roger was raising there, which comes through the outcomes in the project assistance through stages of growth, 3 per annum. But if you look below that, and I like that they've done this, they've put the Terravina outcome for our economy that relate to that there as well. And you'll see about 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points down. Got by 2024 target, no less than 95% of young people actively engaged in employment, education and training, which is a big stretch if you look at stats. So they are, and by the way, they didn't endorse that vision strategy as well. I would like to see them, as being said, move some of those targets into their plans, move it up so that we can keep a better eye on it. But that's been raised by us as a council. Say 4 councils, 4 councils actually own North Link. So we work with all of them when we set our objectives. But so that's why I appreciate what was said. I support this, and we'll be looking through this process again in about a year. Yes.
I'm happy to speak in favour of the recommendation as seconder. I attended the start of the Joint Regional Economic Development Committee meeting by Teams. This will be our last statement of intent and last correspondence with Northern Link, because the part of the meeting I was in was the sign off of a rebranding. They will become Northern NZ More Te Pai Pukero. A new brand. It looks quite cool. And you know, feeding off the Northern, the NZ Inc. framing and a lot of regional economic development, what are they called? Agencies and RTOs use the NZ framing. Also, that's already their website and their email handling or something like that. So I'm happy to receive the draft statement of intent, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work alongside Northern Inc. To see good outcomes for Far Northerners through their agency, and I'm appreciative of Councillor Vucic and Councillor Balke as our reps on JRED to continue to push for the Far North and what we want to get from our $500,000 we put into this organisation annually. Kia ora. Anyone else like to speak as part of the debate?
I'd just like to add, sorry, I know everybody wants to keep going, but I want to, Felicity, like, hurry up, Kelly. It would be really good to have them in the room with us, the board members. We discussed this in the workshop and at Tech Week. I think it would be good if the public could be a part of that, if we record it and put it up so everyone is aware of what they do. And I just want to commend them for all the work they're doing to raise the profile. They're learning about some of our secret places up here in the far north, even some up in Te Huku, on social media. Great. And yeah, look forward to us being able to feed in more feed into the next statement of intent through the next letter of expectations. Thank you.
Right of reply, Councillor Vucic. I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed or abstentions? Carried. We're now going to resolve to exclude the public. I'll move a resolution to exclude the public for the following parts of the meeting. Item 6.1, Final Holdings Limited draft statement of intent, and 6.2, 7/19/187 management operation of Hokianga Ferry Service conflict. Thank you. Please. Any commentary? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed or abstentions? Carry. If I could get confirmation, we're now live streaming. Kia ora whānau, welcome back to our council meeting. In the public excluded part of our meeting, we considered two papers. One was our Farmers Holdings Limited draft statement of intent. We have sent our letter back and that will eventually get adopted and be public. We also considered a contract extension for the Hokianga Ferry Service to extend the contract for a further 2 years. That was passed. I also just want to quickly say thank you to everyone for making yourselves available on short notice to attend this extraordinary council meeting. I know that you're all like me, where your calendar's probably populated out for several months in advance, so I appreciate the time you've taken for us to consider these notices. Many of them were under urgency to get over, and it was unfortunate that we weren't able to get them done on Wednesday, but I appreciate the time you've taken to do so, including our community board chairs who are online for this council report online. I'll close this off with karakia and wish everyone a happy and enjoyable weekend. Kia tau, kia tate katoa, kia tapai o te tātou ariki o hiu kaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu ake ake āna.